Welcome back. You're watching Markets at Noon on ET Now. My name is Alex Matthew. Now, the COVID-19 pandemic, since its onset in early 2020, has brought on quite a bit of change in our lives, particularly in the way that we consume goods and services. One of the sectors that has had to stay nimble and to adapt has been the packaging sector. We're joined now by Rajesh Bhatia, the Group President, Finance and Accounts and CFO of Uflex, to talk about the changing landscape in his industry and also hopefully to get a sense of the outlook for the current financial year as far as his business is concerned. Thanks so much, Mr. Bhatia, for taking the time. I do want to understand from you, the packaging industry has continued to remain on its toes to meet the all-time high demand that we're currently seeing for packed food and medicine and other essential goods. And certainly the way that we consume those goods has changed. Can you give us a sense of how that has panned out in terms of the numbers? Can you quantify that for us?
So I think, industry as a whole, we've been looking at a very, substantial growth this year. I think the packaging films as well as the packaging is set to grow at about 12 to 14% this year. And, for us, the growth will be a bit better because, we had capacities which came on stream during the financial year 21, at different times during FY21. And the demand was higher initially, when the pandemic last year in March, April, there was lockdowns across the country. So there was urge to hold more. And obviously that meant that, there was a huge pent-up demand. And thereafter, the hygiene habits have changed and the people want more packaged stuff. And primarily because, the packaging, the flexible packaging is largely used for the food packaging. So there the requirements have only been going up both in India as well as internationally. Apart from India, Uflex is present in about 9 countries. But we do export to about 140 odd countries. So we've seen the same trend across almost the entire world. This time around, when India lockdown happened, the demand didn't go up that dramatically because, people understood this time that, there will be, allowances made for the supply of the food and essential goods. So it was a normal curve. This time there was not a spike what we saw in the first phase of the lockdown in last year. Overall, I think things are happening good for the industry. There's a focus which is like sustainable packaging, which had taken a backseat, but the moment the pandemic is over, I think the focus will shift to that. And Uflex is likely to make very big strides in that particular business segment.
All right, that's good to hear, Mr. Bhatia. But one of the factors that a lot of companies have had to contend with is the raw material prices going up. And for you particularly, prices of polypropylene and other packaging raw materials have hit record highs. Do you see that smoothening out or softening to a certain extent going forward, or is it likely to sustain at those levels for the rest of the financial year?
I see that the prices have already, now we're talking about a little lesser than the peak and also a bit of more of stability. So I think the prices will come down and there's no reason for the prices not to come down. Last year when the pandemic happened, the raw material prices fell too sharply, while there was a demand on the finished product side. So the finished product prices remained there, or maybe there was a certain increase because the world trade was affected. So the localization effect led to increase in the prices in certain regional markets, which was hugely dependent on imports. So the margins went up quite substantially. And then the raw material, once the markets opened, the raw material started catching up and all that. And then there were a few, lockouts or, the capacities going off the stream, which led to this current increase in prices. But it's getting stabilized now. But as a whole for the industry, I would say the margins are still healthy between, EBITDA margins between 19 to 21% are still very healthy.
All right. Mr. Bhatia, hi, this is Mubina as well joining in. I wanted to know that as we are seeing, a reopening of the economy, it's happening, of course, slowly, but how are you seeing demand, trend across the different segments that you cater to?
So I think our focus remains on exports a lot, and we've seen that the demand had come down after the initial pent-up demand due to hoarding, as I said, and it's now stabilized. In India, we seeing in the packaging films, there is a double-digit growth at least. We this year we seen about 12 to 14% kind of a growth. I think 10 to 11% kind of a growth going forward. We anticipating in the flexible packaging films. The flexible packaging, the top guys will look at a volume. They want to do more of a high value and high margin business. So there, the kind of market they'll cater to will give them about 6 to 8% kind of a growth, because they are not looking at some of the products where the margins are extremely low, and better leave that out, that product segment to some of the smaller setups. But in the large setups where, we're talking of pouching, we're talking of retort pouches and more value-added pouches or sustainable packaging, I think we're looking at about 6 to 8% growth in the flexible packaging in that segment, which is quite healthy. But overall, because we do both packaging as well as packaging films, so packaging film side, we're seeing a double-digit growth in the current year also, led by increase in consumption and led by more awareness about hygiene and safety factors.
All right. So tell us a bit about the exports business as well. How has that done? How do you see it shaping up going forward too?
So we doing from India only the packaging exports. We don't export any packaging films from India. We've been doing about 70 to 80 million dollars a year. Our target is to take that to about $100 million a year in the current financial year. And we be working towards that. Some of the issues relating to the travel, mobility, because, it's all about the new business development initiatives also. That has got affected a bit because of the travel constraints and all that. But generally, we seen that, the markets are pretty well stabilized for us after a huge pent-up demand from April to August, and then from August to November, there was a bit of a lull, and thereafter, the things have stabilized quite a bit. So we'll do about annually about 75 to 80 million dollars in the last year, and current year we looking at about $100 million exports.
Okay. Mr. Bhatia, we leave it at that. Thanks so much once again for joining us today on the show and giving us a glimpse of what exactly is in store for the packaging industry, how the last few months have been. I think the one outstanding feature has been the fact that across products we have, across commodities as well, we've seen a surge in pricing, packaging including, and seeing as this is a segment that's essentially all pervasive, it is something that all companies will have to deal with as well. That's higher input costs. Well, we'll do one thing. We'll take a very short break on the show. Be right back with more.